All right. We will start again from the fourth line down on the second section on page Kuf Lamed Vov. And on the WhatsApp yesterday, such confusion. I clearly we don't begin to know what we are saying. I said we have fourth line from the beginning, and we are speaking about oir in contrast to shefa. And we're saying that in oir there's a very special element that is being given in oir, which is even superior to that which is given in shefa. And that is the principle that's called oir me'ein ha'mo'ir. True, it is only oir, it is only a ha'orah, but this ha'orah represents the mo'ir itself, me'ein ha'mo'ir. And this me'ein ha'mo'ir brings the mo'ir in proximity to that which is meir. The mo'ir itself, a completely different kind of a gift. In shefa, you give that which the mushpa is able to absorb and understand and work with. In oir, you are presenting the mo'ir itself, and that gives an uplift, totally out of proximity to the way it is in shefa. In shefa, it is impossible, as we're going to see, we're going to go into this, impossible to express the union of sechel the way it is by the mashpia. And we explained why that is true. Because by the mashpia, the sechel is a direct flow from the rotzen ha-nefesh and from the oineg ha-nefesh and from the nefesh itself. Whereas when it gets reproduced, it's a completely different restructure, it's a completely different materials. Whereas in oir me'ein ha'mo'ir. Oir is a direct flow, direct reflection of the mo'ir. Okay, so I'd like to have some feedback. Do we follow what this is all about? Because I said on the WhatsApp, let's get into this line. This is where we got stuck yesterday. The line begins with the word domim zeh. In the middle of that line, v'hagam the shefa hu gam kinifeifan ha'etzem. Although that in shefa it is also lefi oifan ha'etzem, the shefa is given in a manner that it reflects the etzem, according to what the etzem is, to how the etzem is. Because we said that in oir, the oir is k'moy ha'etzem, oir meir ha'moir. In shefa also, it is lefi oifan ha'etzem. It also is reflective of the etzem. But here we don't say it's k'moy ha'etzem, we say it is lefi oifan ha'etzem. These words are meant for us to to reflect on, and to get the gist of what is this meant, what is k'moy ha'etzem, what is lefi oifen ha'etzem. For this we give also Meshalim, and all the Meshalim were completely misconstrued. Sorry to say. The principle of oil me'ein hamoir is an extremely fine, very exposing, very revealing presentation. Just to start with, as we said yesterday, again, that was completely misunderstood. Oil mein hamoyer means that the oil comes from the oil by the very fact that the oil is present. The very presence of the oil, there is no additional action on the part of the oil to produce oil. Its presence brings along the oil. Whereas in shefa, the presence of the chacham, the presence of the teacher does not bring the sechel along. Not only does the mashpia need to express his sechel, he even has to reformat the sechel so that it is being presented to the mushpa in a manner that he can understand it, that he can relate to it, that he can accept it. It's a completely different seichel. Oil is me'ein hamoyer. Gives the very real thing the way it is by the moyer. Not the way it is, the moyer itself. It's a reflection of the moyer. In shefa, you can't produce a seichel without speaking it out. When you put in the speech, it's already not the way it is by the mashpia. But mashpia, it is in thought at the minimum. When it comes into speech, thought and speech are not on the same level. The truth is that the mashpia also it is not in thought. Thought is already a lower level. His understanding of it is on a much higher level than thought itself. Thought is a step in the process of reproducing it. And here the Rebbe says, so the oil is me'ein hamoyer. Yes, shefa is also lefi oifen ha'etzem, but shefa lefi oifen ha'etzem is a completely different principle, concept than oil me'ein hamoyer. As we just now finished saying, the sechel will not be recognized, will not be revealed unless it is translated in thought and speech. It's produced for the purpose of being understood. Oyer, the very presence of the moyer brings along the oyer. Me'ein hamoyer. Which means that oil is a reflective of the reality of the moyer itself. That's why his presence brings along the oil. And the mashal for that we have from the oil hashemesh. And here also we have a little bit of a challenge, but it is not that difficult to overcome. The challenge is from the secular view of how the sun, the light, how the sun illuminates the world. That is not difficult to overcome. Why? Because their view is so silly, is so completely off mark, that everybody says that something is missing there. The principle of oil, as we know already, we've discussed it many times. Oil is a creation in and of itself. Oil is not a derivative, a result of something else. As we know from the Torah, that in order there should be oil, the Rebbe said, let there be oil. It's a creation in and of itself. It's not a derivative of fire or anything else. I'm going to say something that is, again, very, very fine and deep. But if you don't understand, I'm saying on condition that we don't begin building whole buildings around it. Just try to understand what is being said directly. We said many times that the principle of an etzem, which again, etzem is not a worldly, the final created entity. We cannot create an etzem from worldly ingredients. Etzem is a direct creation from God Himself. Like we say, Hashem said, let there be light. It's a creation directly of light, not a creation of light, not a creation, a derivative of something else. Only God has that kind of capacity, that kind of capability of creating a reality just because He wants that reality. And here's a point which I'd like to make, and I'd like to see that we understand it. We say oir me'ein hamoir. That oir is me'ein, is a reflective of what the moir is. But then at the same time we say that oir is mispashet, oir spreads out in the entire area, the entire space around it. And it reaches the farthest areas that can be seen from the place where it comes, everywhere. Instantaneously it is everywhere. Etzem is an etzem, it stays where it is. Etzem does not spread out. So how do we then say oy me'ein hamoir? It's a completely different reality. Moir is an etzem and it stays put. It cannot even spread if there would be any kind of a desire for this. But oil is spreading all the time. So the explanation to this is, as we said many times, that the principle of a etzem is that wherever it is it automatically claims the entire area, and it redefines it in its own image. The motion for this is a human being owning a home. By virtue of him owning the home, he automatically is present in the entire home, no matter how large his home is. If he owns the Empire State Building, and this is his home, his presence is recognized in the entire building, even those areas that he never visited. Because he has an essential, an etzemdike level of ownership. He owns not because he did something to it. He owns it because he was given the right to own. It's a divine gift. No other creature has that kind of a capability, that kind of right. How does a human being spread himself? How does he become present in the entire Empire State Building without ever visiting it? The answer is that because he's an etzem atzmi, he's a true presence by its truth encompasses the entire environment. It's the truth itself, the truth of his presence that encompasses it all. This is how the Rambam expresses the union of Elokus. He says that the first principle is to know that there is a first being. And he says, from the truth of his presence, everything comes to be. Everything is encompassed in the truth of his presence. He's everywhere. How is it? Because everything is a representation, is a result of the truth of his presence. If it lacks the truth of his presence, then it lacks existence. This truth of his presence, this is what is mispashit, what spreads in oyer. The oyer is a statement that there is an etzem here. The oyer hashemesh is a statement that there is a shemesh. Of the truth of the presence of the shemesh. It is not an additional action, activity on the part of the shemesh, effort on the part of the shemesh. It is its presence itself. The truth of its presence is what's recognized in the oyer. And this is why we say oyer me'in hamoyer. Even though the moyer does not spread around, the truth of its presence is everywhere. And this is what represented in oyer. Oyer is simply saying, yes, there is a shemesh here. Not something different. The truth of the presence of the shemesh is retranslated, is called oyer. This is what oyer me'en hamoyer. It's really me'en hamoyer. It is of the truth of the moyer itself. In contrast to shefa, which is not me'en hamashpia. It is something which is produced by the mashpia, by his words and actions and so forth. It is not his presence that brings the shefa, that brings the sechel. And here is where Rebbe is going, so to speak, a step further. He says that in shefa also there is something of akin to that. But there it's called lifi eifon ho'etzem, not k'moi ho'etzem. And this we have to understand. This is where we're going to start again. Fourth line. V'agam v'shefa hu gam kein lifi eifon ho'etzem. Although that the shefa is also lifi eifon ho'etzem. It is, the shefa is produced according to the manner of what the etzem is. In other words, you can tell from the shefa what kind of etzem is. Not the etzem itself, but kind of etzem it is that produces the shefa. That's what etzem. It's reflective of the type of etzem it is, not what the etzem is. It's not like the etzem, but there is a quality in the etzem that produces this kind of an oil, this kind of shefa. The simple illustration, meaning of these words, as this is true, the hashpos sechel in teaching the sechel. Sechel is clearly not an oir element. Sechel does not flow from the hashpia effortlessly. He has to produce a sechel. So how do we then say this lefi yefon ha'etzem? He produces it. The answer is, Harei, behold, the fifth one, Mishu Chochem Godel, one who is a great Chochem. The greater the Chochem is, Megala Sichlim Nalam Yeser. He will be expressing superior Sichlim. This in that the greater the Chochem, the greater the sechel that will be produced by him, is called lefi oifon ha'etzem. Because he's a bigger chacham, he produces greater sichlim. It is not a direct flow, an automatic flow. But when he is going to produce a sechel, the sechel will be reflective of how great a person he is. This is lefi oifon ha'etzem. Harimishu Chochem Godel Megala Sichlim Nalim B'Yosef. A great Chochem is Megala reveals Sichlim Nalim B'Yosef, extremely superior Sichliyim concept. However, Zehu Rag, this is only Shehashpohei Hi Lefi Oifon Ha'etzem. It is only that the Mashpoh is Lefi Oifon Ha'etzem, is according to the manner and the nature of the etzem. How is this different than saying oil mein hamoir? The sechel that is being produced is not giving out the etzem. It's giving a sechel. A sechel is something that's created by the chochem. It's not him. So this is what we tried yesterday to explain and to show him. But let's a few more words, and maybe we'll get the point. V'hainu, which means to say, Masha ho'etzem mare koicha be'ashpo. That the sin that is lefiation etzem is not that the hashpah is reflective of the etzem, but rather it is that the etzem mare koichai shows its power in the hashpah. It shows how great the etzem is in the hashpah, how powerful the etzem is. Not that this hashpah is reflective of him who he is. Whatever he will do, you can tell you that he has a certain quality, a certain koyach. It's not reflective of himself. Oyer meyen ho etzem is the pshat. It is reflective of the etzem. Lefi eifon ho etzem means that whatever he will do according to his ability. And he, because his ability is greater, therefore what he does is greater. Oy mein ha-moyer, the pshat that the oil is reflective of the moyer. Oil lifi eifan hoetzim, the pshat that the shefa, the hashpod, whatever is being produced, will be reflective of his general capability. Not it's a reflective of his sechel. Sechel does not come automatically by reflecting what the sechel is.
A cycle for the mashpia himself could come automatic, just cycle to be mashpia
No.
is not coming automatic?
No.
Even for the mashpia?
Yeah, of course. He has to reformulate the sechel. He must be the sechel comes from rotzen and leinig. It's not sechel. He has to think into it. So we misboin it. Do you know how to write? Reb Shlomo.
Yes.
Were you taught how to write, or did you write because you were a bar seichel?
I was taught.
How come? You're a bar seichel. After you learn it, makes sense to you. But you had to learn it. And every time you write, you have to sit down and think, how am I going to write this out?
So what is the difference from the cycle, how it is in the mashpia, and how the cycle which he gives over? If both of them is not directly from Oinigerutzen, both of them was formulated, and even for himself it's formulated. It's not the same.
That's true. It's sure. But he has access to the seichel at its inception, whereas that which he gives to the mushpa is already at a different level. This is why the sechel by the mashpia is in a totally different manner the way it is produced to the mushpa. I'd like we should understand the principle of the Eifan Ho'etzim. We'll be able to pick up everything else, but the Eifan Ho'etzim, as a person who is an honest person, by nature is an honest person. Whatever he does will reflect his honesty. For example, he will learn something, and he will refuse to fool himself. And he say that he understands, but he doesn't really understand. He will seek to understand, and if he doesn't understand, he'll say, I don't understand. This is the nature of a person. He doesn't fool himself. He doesn't fool himself, and he doesn't fool others.
Right, that's shefa.
Excuse me?
That's illustrating shefa.
That's illustrating a quality of a person. This quality of a person is reflected in everything that he does. It's not shefa.
This we got into Lefi Ofen Etzem came from describing how shefa differs from or. Yeah?
But it is to explain, yes, nada. It is to explain that even though in shefa also there is a reflection of the etzem. But always say, "Oy mein hamotze, moir." Shefa, we say, is just a reproduction of the etzem, but it's also the fear from the etzem. It is not. This is not what distinguishes shefa from oyer. Shefa is oyer is a direct flow. B'derech mamela, and shefa is not b'derech mamela.
This that he's honest and that it imbues all his attributes seems fairly mamela. No?
It's not mamela.
Okay.
It is his. He has to create it every time that he has to stop and say, "Am I being honest?"
But it is his operating procedure throughout. He doesn't have to create. He doesn't have to create that at every situation.
It's the same as saying that he doesn't have to create that he's a human being every time he thinks of how to act.
Right, which seems to point to a sort of mamela.
It's not mamela, please.
Okay.
It's not mamela.
Okay.
He. As I said yesterday, this which when he is being honest, let's say in business, this is not a direct flow from being a human being. It's not automatic. It's what lefi oifan ha'etzem. Lefi oifan means that it is reflective of the quality of the person he is. It's not reflective of the very thing that he is doing. It's not automatic that he'll be honest in business.